Here are 5 watches with horrible depreciation. Don't buy these watches new from the AD unless you get a massive discount. The last 2 are probably gonna surprise you, but for very different reasons. Let's begin with Nomos. The specific one I want to highlight is called Zurich. It's an automatic stainless steel model from one of my favorite brands, one of the most underrated brands out there, Nomos. In this video, I'm not going to show you a bunch of watches that are awful and then, just shake my finger at them. No, actually quite a few watches on this list I personally like. I actually owned the Nomos for a couple of years. I sold it and I still regret it to this day. I shouldn't have sold my Nomos because these watches are amazing. First of all, the finish on the movement that you get is like nothing else you will ever see, especially in this price category. Nomos makes and decorates their movements in-house. They're really beautiful to look at, and that's just the movement alone. You also get the rest of the watch. The case is beautiful, the dimensions are gorgeous. The one specifically that I'm highlighting in this video, Zurich model, has a 39.5mm case diameter. To some people it might sound a little small, but actually Nomos watches were much larger than you would expect. Like for example, I had a 38mm case diameter and it wore pretty large on my 7.5 inches wrist. They're also very slim, under 10mm in thickness, which makes them a perfect option as a dress watch. There's just so much to like about Nomos watches, but for one reason or another, they're not holding their value as well as they could. This Zurich model has a retail price of $4,500 US. However, now you can find them on gray market, like on Jama Shop, for under $2,600, which is about a 43% drop from its original MSRP. Now that's gray market. On the used market, these watches can be found for even cheaper. I bought my Nomos Tangomat as a used watch for about $1,400. Now they're a little bit more expensive, but nevertheless, that's a $4,000 MSRP watch that I bought for $1,400. And deals like that can be had online all day long. So use that information wisely. If you're planning to buy a Nomos, look at gray market dealers or used market. You can score some fantastic deals on these watches. Next up, Hublot Tourbillon Skeleton King Gold 18 karat watch. Now we go from a watch that I love, like the Nomos, to a watch that I'm not so crazy about, like this Hublot. Now don't get me wrong, I actually like Hublots. I'm one of these weird guys that actually likes Hublot watches. Not all of them, but some of them are pretty cool. And this one here, it's not the worst Hublot you will ever see. What I noticed about Hublot watches in general, they tend not to hold their value that well, just like Nomos. Especially if you're talking about high complication watches or watches made out of precious metals. Now, when you take a watch like this one that's made out of precious metal and has a lot of high complications, you just have a recipe for a bad time. So this watch here has a retail price of $150,000. It does have some cool features though, not $150,000 worth of cool features, but it does have some, like for example, the movement caliber hub 6310 handwind, pretty interesting, tourbillon movement with 115 hours of power reserve. Wow, that's pretty impressive. You also get a single push chronograph. Again, kind of interesting, kind of a difficult complication to accomplish. These are high horology type complications. A lot of watch enthusiasts love these type of complications. They pay top dollar to get these complications in their watch. So what's wrong with this one? Well, Hublot doesn't really appeal to the high horology types, and the Hublot buyers, I guess I'm gonna generalize a little bit, don't really appreciate the high horology complications. So given all of that, you can find these watches under $63,000 on the resale market. Yes, it's still expensive, but nowhere near $150,000 like its suggested MSRP, which means that this one has a depreciation of about 57% from new to the gray market. If you're in the market for one of these watches and you want to buy brand new from the AD, demand a very, very hefty discount. Next up, let's talk about Breitling. I love the brand, clearly, but they have had some missteps. One of the examples is Breitling for Bentley Flying B watch. Now this watch came out in 2006, so it's actually not something that you can just walk into the AD and buy. But back in 2006, the retail price was $15,000. I mean, depending on which one you can get, because you can also get some precious metals ones, but the one I want to talk about in this example is the stainless steel version. It was about 15K. For that money, you actually got kind of an interesting watch, right? It doesn't look like anything else on the market. It looks very Bentley-esque. As I would imagine someone who was buying a brand new Bentley in 2006, they would probably like a watch like this. It's big. I mean, the diameter is only 38.5 millimeters, so it's not that big, but the lug-to-lug distance is 57.3 millimeters. So it's a very chunky watch on your wrist. You need a pretty massive wrist and a pretty massive ego to pull off this watch. Again, perfect Bentley driver watch. I know I'm riffing on some Bentley drivers. I love Bentleys, so whatever. Anyways, the thickness, 14.6 millimeters. All right, so that's the most kind of reasonable dimension on the watch. And also has some interesting ways of reading time. It has your date complication, it has the sub-seconds. Looks very cool and interesting. I actually kind of like the look of this watch. It just looks very unique. And also look at the shape of the sapphire. It's very difficult to get a sapphire in this type of shape, especially to get a sapphire in this type of shape to have any sort of water resistance. This one has 100 meters of water resistance, which is very impressive. So some impressive technology is going on around here, but not $15,000 worth of impressive technology, clearly. Because now in 2023, you can still buy brand new examples of this watch. New old stock. I'm not talking about used examples because used examples are even cheaper, but new gray market watches still available to this day, and a lot of them are for around $7,000, under $7,000, which means that they're about 50% off. Not as crazy as some of the other watches that we've seen here, but still pretty crazy. 52% off from the gray market, and if you look at used examples, you can score even better deals than that, although I'm not sure if you would want to with this specific watch. Next up is an expensive watch. This one comes from Belle & Ross. It's called Miniature Tourbillon Handwind watch. Now, they made a couple of different versions of this watch. There's a titanium version. There's also a precious metal version. In this video, I'm going to talk about the titanium version. In terms of technology, it looks very interesting, right? It looks like a completely custom movement made for this watch specifically, which means it's going to dictate some high dollars. $170,000 to be exact was the MSRP of this watch. Yes, it's big. It looks very big. I mean, it just looks like it's going to go across your whole wrist, 50 millimeters in diameter. Only 50 meters of water resistance. It is made out of black titanium, and the watch certainly has a look, right? I mean, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but you can't deny that it's something different. When you make a unique design language watch, chances are it's not going to sell very well unless you hit it out of the park, and unfortunately, I don't think Belle & Ross did that. This watch has one of the worst depreciations I've seen on any watch in a very long time. As I mentioned, the retail price for it was $170,000. Now you can buy new old stock, meaning new watches from gray market dealers like Joma Shop, by the way, this video is not sponsored, for $39,000, which means it went down about 77% in its value. And that's for a new gray market watch. For a used example, it's probably way less than that. For 40 grand, you're actually getting some pretty cool complications. You get tourbillon, which is a very cool but useless complication. You also get a miniature flyback chronograph, which is a little bit more cool. It's a single pusher chronograph, from my understanding. Very difficult to achieve. So for 40 grand, you do get a lot of value. I just wish the watch looked better. Its looks probably are the worst thing about it, and it's what's holding it back. And now we get to number one. This watch is in number one spot, not because it has the worst depreciation, which it actually doesn't. It's in the number one spot because it was the most surprising to me personally. I'm talking about the new Omega Speedmaster Moon watch made out of canopy gold. This watch just came out last year. I actually did a review of one. I compared it to the yellow gold and the stainless steel versions, and actually this canopy gold was one of my favorite versions. The retail price on it is $51,300 which is a lot of money for a Speedmaster. Yes, of course it is. But nowadays you can find them on gray market for around $27,500, which is about a 46% depreciation. And yes, I understand that watches will depreciate. It's a depreciating asset. Every watch, pretty much every watch you will buy is gonna go down in price. It's just the nature of the beast. But 46%, that's a lot, right? That's almost half of the price. And we're not even talking about the used example here. We're talking about brand new gray market example. So on the used market, let's say if you want to sell your Canopy Gold watch, it's going to be a bloodbath. You're probably going to get around 20 grand because brand new examples on the gray market are 27,500, right? So if you want to sell yours to someone, maybe you sell for 24, 23 grand directly to somebody else. But if you want to sell it to a dealer and then for them to resell it, you're going to sell it for probably under 20 grand, which is pretty crazy. So if you're in the market for one of these Speedmasters, demand a pretty huge discount from your AD. If not, look at gray market examples, because paying $51,000 for a watch and then selling it for under 20 grand in the future is just ridiculous. It's a bad money investment, but so is the rest of watch collecting. So I guess this video is pretty useless. Well, I hope you enjoyed it nevertheless. Thanks for watching until the end. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye.